I just felt like letting it finish this time. Welcome back to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF with two P's. As always, joined from across the river by at Thury BFF, Dan Thury. That's with two F's. He's in Springfield, Illinois. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. And we're here to talk NFL draft after a very, very busy... I don't want to call it busy, I guess. 3 days of refreshing phones and trying to pay attention to what was going on and where people landed. And this felt like a weird one to me, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, like you go back and you see, like the biggest takeaway for me is 28 receivers were drafted. We haven't reached that low since 2013. And this was a class that was touted as being massively deep. And it didn't feel that way.
No, and the other thing that we saw also is that a lot of the talent at the receiver position, it fell. They were not drafting receivers early, and you had kind of mentioned, hey, is that because of the depth? And I kind of looked at it and said, well, if it's a deep class, why would people be waiting? But then, I think you may have been right. I think it may have been because of the depth. People weren't rushing to get wide receivers, and as a whole, that class fell.
I mean, like even if it's a deep class and people fell, like I expected teams not to move up for some of these receivers and kind of let the draft fall to them. But there's some names out there that didn't get drafted that were really shocking compared to some other names that that should have not have been drafted.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. It's like we were way off on consensus with a lot of things. Just the fantasy community as a whole was way off on consensus with some things and with where the NFL was.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with UDFAs on the other computer over here.
I got it right now if you want to keep rolling. I keep refreshing the list to try to keep as much updated, but I think we got majority of...
Yeah, two more just Alex Barnes and Ryan Fitzpatrick signings just popped up.
Well, Alex Barnes did.
Are you watching Roto World?
No, I have the NFL draft thing popped up.
Okay, I'm watching Roto World for all of
that. That makes sense.
So different sources. All right. As always, you can follow the show, Beerfield FF, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped, on-air production meeting happening early this episode. You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and MySpace, Beerfield Fantasy Football. For those of you that did join the live stream with us on Thursday night, we would just like to say thank you. We always love those conversations. Big shout out to Ben Morgan, who hung out with us for most of the night. DJ Primo popped in. Former co-host Nick Sparks showed up. And Dan got pretty blitzed on air.
Dan, like, I was pretty drunk before the draft even started. I didn't feel like I got too fucked up until I think the middle of the draft. It was the middle of just sunk in. I'm like, well, we're going there.
It was the middle of the draft, and it was funny because, and I'm sure if you were listening, you noticed this. I talked to you about this the next morning already, but you did a complete 180 from, I don't care if you guys tell us. Yeah, tell us the picks. We're going to know about them anyway, too. Why did you tell us the pick? I wanted to find out the pick on the screen. I'm not going to believe it until I see it.
Well, that is my catchphrase.
that is your catchphrase. Also,
I'll see it when I believe it.
Also, we have shirts available, hats, stuff. Buy our shit, review our stuff.
Hell yeah,
etc., etc. You've heard that enough. Let's preview some beer.
Yes.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Dan and I have the same thing. It's Overcast Espresso Stout. This was definitely not sent in by a listener, which we encourage you to absolutely not do that, is send us beer.
Wink, wink,
you can always reach out to us, and we will tell you how to not send us beer, because that would be illegal. We don't support breaking laws.
We here at Beerfield Fantasy Football do not support breaking the law.
Yeah, never would we encourage that.
Ever.
But yeah, if you want to get on that train also, feel free to reach out. We'll tell you where to not send it. This is from Dashire Brewing in
Oakshire?
Is it Oakshire?
Oakshire Brewing out of Oregon.
That makes a lot more sense. They used a weird font on the can.
They did.
Yeah, out of Eugene, Oregon, home of Nike and home of, the University of Oregon.
Yes.
So It is a coffee stout that checks in at, I believe, 5.8%, so a lighter alcohol content one, which is good because I've been shit-faced, I think, 4 out of 5 days. And yeah, I need to relax a little bit. We'll give you a full review as we get through about half of the way of the episode or 3/4 or whenever I remember to do it. But right now, let's check in with some news.
News.
All right, one big news piece, then we'll get into the normal rosters, injuries, and retirements. This kind of broke during the draft. We didn't talk about it on Thursday night because we wanted to focus that completely on the draft, but there's audio released of Tyreek Hill telling his fiance, "You should be terrified of me too, bitch," as they were discussing his child being terrified of him because I guess he hits him with a belt and some other stuff. Kansas City has suspended Hill from all team activities. This audio did release after it was reported Hill would not be charged in 2 separate abuse cases. Those cases have now since been reopened, and he's in some serious jeopardy. And if you're a Tyreek Hill owner, you could be just stuck with dead weight.
Yeah, as somebody who owns them in multiple places, it does suck, but it's more beyond just him on my fantasy teams. This piece of shit human being really shouldn't have a chance in the NFL anymore. He should be going to jail, and I'm hoping they can find all the evidence. I mean, obviously, there's no, with this audio, there's some concrete stuff that they can at least go off of now.
Right.
And with his checkered past dating back to Utah, it's not looking good for him.
No, it's not, and he should very well be done in the NFL. I mean, this is we've seen before where people aren't when they should be, but I would find this hard. I mean, Kareem Hunt, being supremely talented, landed on a team, so I mean, he should be, but who knows if he actually will be.
Yeah.
But my opinion is that he should be, and he's at least going to face some suspension time. And it sounds like the Chiefs may be done with him.
Yeah, which they should be.
We'll follow this as it unfolds because this has taken about 3 steps this week from it looked like he was clear to that audio coming out and to now he's very, very much not clear. Moving on to some roster news. It's a little bit happier stuff. Bills signed running back TJ Yeldon to a 2-year deal. Good thing because they didn't draft for shit in the running back room.
No, they didn't.
So TJ Yeldon, if LaShawn McCoy is TJ Yeldon, you should own. You should go buy him on the cheap as a throw-in piece or whatever. Because if LaShawn McCoy is ineffective, this could be TJ Yeldon's backfield, and we've seen TJ Yeldon be effective.
Yeah, and the one running back that the draft, which we'll get to shortly, should not compete.
Yep.
For much of anything. He may not be much of a year one of this first year thing if they decide to keep McCoy and Ivory, but he should have some value moving forward.
Right, and I don't know that they keep Chris Ivory, and even if they do, I think Yeldon's more talented than he is.
I agree.
I think he slides in second with McCoy on thin ice. So, yeah. I mean, it may be a first-year thing. It just might not be a first 6 weeks thing.
True.
The Chiefs have some draft day trades. The Chiefs acquired defensive end Frank Clark for pick 29, which ended up being LJ Collier. Who's a defensive end, and the 2020 second rounder. So Chiefs get a young up-and-coming pass rusher to help their defense. And then the fantasy-relevant one, though, unless, it's IDP, the Dolphins acquired quarterback Josh Rosen in exchange for the 62nd overall pick, which ended up turning into Andy Isabella and a 2020 fifth rounder. So first off, great price on Rosen for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, you basically spent a day 2 pick on a quarterback on a rookie deal who just got done being a top 10 pick last year. He may not be shit, but you didn't pay anything for that chance.
Right. Or he may be something. And we've seen, he's going to come in and compete, should get a backup job. We'll get to sit behind Fitzpatrick and learn a bit. Yeah. And then, Fitzpatrick, we know he's a journeyman. If they're confident in Rosen, he'll move out. And we've also seen Fitzpatrick get hurt or have bouts of ineffectivity that could put him into the lineup. So if you're a Josh Rosen owner, I'm not panicking, I'm holding. A lot of Rosen's problems were things that the Cardinals should have known about, but they wanted and done their coach. He had to learn, I think I heard a stat of 4 different playbooks on the NFL Network between coming into the league and now, because they switched offensive coordinators midway through the season. And then he learned Kingsbury's playbook, and now he's going to have to learn one in Miami. He does not do well under pressure. And I don't mean that like, oh my God, tense situations. I mean, under a pass rush pressure. We saw it in college, and Arizona didn't have shit for an offensive line. He was never really given a chance to succeed for what he is.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you out there that are playing in 2 QB leagues or in super flex leagues, or I guess even if you need a young quarterback in a 1 QB dynasty, I mean, go out and sniff and see what you get from him. He's not free by any means, but he's definitely not worth what you're going to be paying for some of these other rookie quarterbacks that just got drafted. So I think he's worth a sniff because you can get him almost at a cheap price.
As long as you're willing to wait, a year maybe.
I mean, we've seen what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He may look fantastic for the first 3 or 4 weeks. He'll have a 3 or 4 pick half and get benched. It's just
what he does.
It's what he does.
It's Fitzmagic until it's not.
Oh, yes.
New England signed Josh Gordon to a 1-year, $2.025 million contract, ensuring he'll play there if he does play this year. So, woo.
Yeah. Woo.
Rams picked up Jared Goff's 5th-year option.
I think he'll get re-signed at some point, but
yeah, I also think he'll get extended at some point. But I'm not too worried about that. I think he gets extended. But that was a formality. There's no way they weren't picking that up.
Exactly.
The Ravens signed kicker Justin Tucker to a 4-year, $23 million contract extension, so he'll be kicking balls through uprights from further than most people can kick balls through uprights for another 4 years and continue to be the highest drafted kicker of most fantasy drafts.
As he should. And Tuck we trust.
Yep. Steelers signed Ben Roethlisberger to a 2-year deal through 2021, so a couple more years of Big Ben.
Yeah, I guess so much for that potential retirement talk we've had the last 2 seasons.
Well, and that was based off of one comment he made, I think kind of tongue-in-cheek sarcastically.
True.
Early on in one season, and that was it. So, I mean, people clung to that one comment and kind of held on to it as he's going to retire, but really, he hasn't hinted at it since that.
Yeah.
And Houston is going to exercise Will Fuller's 5th-year option so he can continue to play IR for them.
Yeah, six games he'll get, maybe 8.
Yeah.
But if he can stay healthy for a full season, a lot of upside.
37 touchdowns. In injury news, Colt McCoy underwent a 3rd procedure on his broken leg. He's still expected ready for training camp. Guess they tried to rush him back too fast at the end of last year, and that ended up not working out too hot for them.
Yeah, there's no need to ever rush back Colt McCoy.
Yeah, they were almost a playoff team, remember?
Yeah, yeah.
And then Adam Schefter's reported there's a real chance that Doug Baldwin may be unable to continue playing due to cumulative effects of multiple injuries. He's 30 years old. The Seahawks came out and made a statement after this broke that said that they're going to let Doug Baldwin make the announcement when it comes time to make an announcement, that it should come within the next couple weeks. So looks like there may be a retirement happening there, though.
Yeah, and it will bump up the stock of, DK Metcalf, and it also points at, some of the signings they've made post-draft.
And some of what they did during the draft, too, honestly.
Exactly.
In other retirement news, Jonathan Stewart has officially called it a career after 12 mostly productive seasons. That's not
he was great for a while, and he
turned 30.
Yeah, turned 30 like most running backs do.
He was just worn down. He was a bell cow for a really, really long time. 12 years is a long time in the league for a running back.
Yeah.
I mean,
hats off to Mr. Stewart.
He had a good career. Yep. And speaking of good careers, Marshawn Lynch has retired for a second time.
I think this time's for real. So.
I think it is too. He's not going to Vegas with him. So.
One of my favorite running backs I've watched over the last 4 or 5 seasons, especially during his time with Seattle.
He was still productive. It's good that he didn't come back and completely fall back.
Yep.
All right, now the Laugh Out Loud news of the week.
Laugh Out Loud news of the week.
For those of you that didn't listen last week, this is a new segment where we dig up some hype or coach speak or whatever that is absolutely laughable or in hindsight laughable and make fun of it for a minute. So usually 2 to 3 items in this list. The first one, Ryan Pace said last Tuesday, the Bears do not feel a pressing need to draft a running back. And then the Bears went out and drafted 2 running backs and 5 picks.
And one of them being their first pick.
One of them being their first pick. Is a consensus top 3 running back. So sorry, Mike Davis. So much for that pressing need. And then the Robbie Gould saga, which is actually fantasy relevant in San Francisco, just continues to be hilarious. I'm not sure when Robbie Gould became a wide receiver, but he is holding out, does not want to play on the franchise tag, demanding trades, and San Francisco's just sitting back there like, yeah, we're not doing that.
It's like, okay, you can go. Oh my God, that's fantastic. I love when kickers speak up and be like, I deserve things.
Here's the thing though, right?
Should deserve.
Gould's made enough in his career that if he doesn't want to play, he can just not play, and then San Francisco's got to either cut him or go out and sign somebody.
Exactly. I mean,
it's not like a wide receiver or a running back where you can sit out and there are other people on the team that will come in and that are already on the roster that will come in and play for you.
I just find it funny. It's so great to see kickers. I mean, I love kickers. Everyone knows I'm a huge Justin Tucker fan, so I love seeing kickers kind of earn some swag here. It's good. It's good.
I think it's great. But he is weirdly positioned as a kicker to be able to actually hurt his team by not playing. If he decides not to play, he can force his way into getting cut because they're not going to roster 2 kickers.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all I got for that. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's recap this year's draft.
Draft recap.
All right. So the way that I've chosen to do this year's draft, a little bit different than last year where it went multiple episodes, 1 by round. We're going to talk about a lot of people in a very short amount of time, and it's been broken up into the good, the bad, the ugly, and we didn't even watch tape on these guys. And then a UDFA discussion at the end. So we're going to start out with the good. So the good is it was good draft capital or a good landing spot. We'll talk about can they produce and how it protects your rankings, but these are people during the draft that landed in a position to be potentially productive. So that being said, we talked about this at length. Let's keep it quick. Kyler Murray, 101 to Arizona.
Not surprising. With the look of their other draft picks and some other moves, it seems like the Cliff wants to bring the true air raid spread offense to the NFL.
Yep, they're gearing up to be able to run a Kingsbury-style offense, which was I thought that they would do. Kyler Murray's mobile, which is going to play better behind that I would say Arizona offensive line, but it's really a lack of, I guess.
There is no need for an offensive line as someone who's as good as Murray is with playing outside the pocket.
No, because he runs like a running back. So he's absolutely going to be productive. I would call it probably Baker, maybe a little bit higher floor than Baker had last year because of the mobility. He is more mobile than Baker Mayfield is. So
I don't expect the same type of passing numbers. What Baker did is still pretty incredible, just given the amount of he missed 3 games due to not playing bench spot. So the rushing production though could be very nice for Murray.
Yeah, we'll see how I actually project him out, but I'm guessing he's going to come out as a QB1 for me. Probably in that mess. I probably won't own a lot of him in redraft because he'll be overdrafted. In Dynasty Superflex leagues, he's the 101 easily, and in regular leagues, he should probably be a second-round pick for quarterback off the board.
A high second, just given some of the drops of other players.
He should be given some of the drops of other players and some of the landing spots for other guys. Keeping with Arizona, they also they had the number 1 overall pick and the Mr. Irrelevant pick. And Mr. Irrelevant is actually, for the second year in a row, probably not irrelevant. It's Caleb Wilson, who I actually like a lot in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a good blocker, but he doesn't need to block in the style of offense. And, he was one of the better pass catching tight ends coming out of UCLA. So this, just as you said, this isn't a bad spot, and there should be very little competition for it.
No, the competition is going to be Ricky Seals-Jones, who's going to be a better blocking tight end anyway. And if they're going to spread it out and work downfield, Caleb Wilson is absolutely built to be able to do that. And for them to get him at the Mr. Irrelevant pick, I think is good. He'll probably project as probably a third rounder in most dynasty drafts for me. Rookie drafts, that is. Just because the draft capital isn't that high, but I absolutely love that fit.
I mean, for me, he's probably still just a free asset because it's a good spot and a good offense for him to succeed in. There's still a shit ton of mouths to feed there. And, a
lot of mouths to feed, but a lot of guys who didn't land well either.
That's true.
So, and again, we haven't had time to compile all that, so we'll see where he actually lands. But speaking of landing spot, moving on to Washington, Dwayne Haskins, 115. I thought this was a good pick. One, because Haskins fell. I thought they were going to have to move up to try to get him, which I would have not agreed with. Two, because it doesn't have to be with Case Keenum and Colt McCoy there. If he comes out slow, he has the chance to learn. I still don't love the arm talent or anything, but, something to be said for getting your guy. He is a first-round pick. He's probably going to start some games, and he did show in college he could be productive, so, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, again, what's actually weird is that no teams made a trade-off for their quarterback.
No.
So everyone kind of fell, which, again, speaks to the lack of actual depth and talent because no one felt the need to move up. But I think, I think this is a good landing spot for him. He won't feel the pressure to start right away with Case Keenum there, and he has an okay talent around them. Obviously running backs are good, tight ends, who knows with Jordan Reed, but the receiving core is still a work in progress.
Yep, it is. So I don't expect him to be relevant in redraft this year. He will be I don't even know he'll be my QB2 yet. We'll talk about that later. But he landed well. I will say that. He landed in a good spot. He didn't severely slip. And I don't think they reached too far for him.
Nope.
Let's go out to Denver. They made two picks that I really, really like. The first one being Noah Fant, which deserves some talking about because as soon as Noah Fant was drafted with the 20th overall pick, questions started flowing in. Is he fantasy relevant? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. They lack a true number one option depending on Emmanuel Sanders. You've got some guys that could develop into it. But Joe Flacco, we know, will target his tight ends and likes to use his tight ends. And Noah Fant is a bona fide pass-catching move tight end that is the perfect person for Flacco to use.
Yeah, there's one thing, and that's if Holland, like we did talk about this about Joe Flacco with them talking about or drafting the next guy we're about to talk about in Drew Lock, is that if the Broncos struggle and they bench Flacco or Flacco gets hurt, which doesn't really happen often, we don't quite know what the tight end level will be there, but in terms of what we know and can see, Fant lands into a very friendly offense for tight ends, at least with Flacco at the helm, and with no other real proven talent there. Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton are both projected guys who could be something there and showed flashes of it there. Fant's a beast though, and he tested incredibly well at the combine, which put him up there for this. He may be one of the only real relevant tight ends, and I think rookie tight ends, excuse me, and I think he's a potential move up to the tight end one spot in dynasty rookie drafts just because of where TJ Hawkinson fell.
No, I agree with that completely, and it depends on what narrative you wanted to buy into with those two. We'll get to TJ Hawkinson a little bit later, but I will say that there's a similarity between there's a narrative where they succeed and they do really, really well early on, and there's a narrative where they don't. And the narrative where they don't for Noah Fant is Sutton breaks out or Flacco gets benched. Drew Lock, who was drafted by Denver 210, which has got to make Joe Flacco not happy, but Flacco has been kind of on the decline. This puts Drew Lock, I think, he's a second-round pick, so you don't need him to produce year one. It puts Lock in a very unique position to be able to sit behind Flacco and learn a bit, because Flacco can teach somebody as long as he has the right attitude about it, and with what we saw with Lamar Jackson, he did and does generally. So Drew Loxley had a ton of arm talent that improved every year in college. So I think that a year of kind of learning, too, is good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as high on him, but the situation fell perfectly for them. A player that John Elway and the Denver organization liked just didn't feel the need to trade up for, because you didn't need to trade up for a guy like that, because they know that he was going to fall to them. So there's a good opportunity for him to actually see some playing time potentially in year one. There's no, as you mentioned, there's no pounding of the table for him to play.
Yeah.
Which is good, because then he can sit there and soak in. This may delay Denver taking an actual first round quarterback, but we could see something, good with Drew Lock and an offense that decently projects well on paper.
You know what? You spend a second round pick on a guy that has zero talent, that needs some coaching up. I know that you're not as high on him, but you got to feel good about him landing in a spot that already has a starter where he's not going to be forced into it and have the continued opportunity to kind of improve before he has to see the field.
Exactly.
Moving on to Oakland, they spent their third first-round pick on Josh Jacobs, and with the retirement of Lynch, this is a fantastic landing spot. It's going to give Jacobs a chance to be a three-down back. I do think they'd do well to pair him with a speedier guy. I don't think that kills Doug Martin necessarily. It does bury Chris Warren a bit, but I like this landing spot for Jacobs, and I think that he's clearly the dynasty RB1 in this rookie draft.
See, for me, because of them bringing in Isaiah Crowell, I'm not high on Crowell, but I think Crowell will have somewhat of a role in this offense. You could see Jacobs starting off as just the main pass catching back with change of pace work that could eat into whatever role Crowell has early on into the season. I still have him as my RB2 because I still love Miles Sanders' landing spot a little bit more, who I think is in the same situation in terms of what he has to beat out to gain that main three-down back row. We don't know if Josh Jacobs can be a true three-down back because he hasn't been that yet. We just know what we love and what we saw on film. I'm still a big fan. I still love this landing spot.
I'll say this about Miles Sanders, though, versus Josh Jacobs, since we went there already.
Yeah.
Jacobs could be a true three-down back. Miles Sanders won't. And Miles Sanders won't based on how Philadelphia has used their running backs over the last few years. And Miles Sanders is good. I like Miles Sanders, but Philadelphia has not featured a running back since, Shady?
Has there been a running back worth featuring, though?
You could go way but are you going to say Miles Sanders is worth featuring when he hasn't played it down in the NFL yet? Look at Ronald Jones.
But at least he's shown that he can be a true, he was at least had a full season of being a true three-down back. And Penn State obviously blocked for obvious reasons by Saquon Barkley, but maybe Philadelphia hasn't had a need to. But you're absolutely right. He hasn't shown it, in the NFL because he hasn't played it down yet.
Which neither is Jacobs, to be fair. Yeah. But Philly also went out and they traded for Jordan Howard, who we have seen be a productive NFL running back and trusted as a workhorse back, especially between the tackles, and produce more so than we've seen Isaiah Crowell produce.
True.
So
very much true.
If you're asking me who
Philadelphia's offense a lot more for even if Sanders just gets pass catching work, we've seen that position be productive.
That's the other problem for me, though. I like Philadelphia's pass offense more than I like Oakland's, which means that bodes against the running game.
But that's also good for Miles Sanders because I don't see anybody else taking that work from him. But either way, we're just...
You say that, and we're going to be talking about Wendell Smallwood again in week 3.
Yeah, I don't want to ever talk about Smallwood or Josh Adams.
That's what Philly does. That's why Philly scares me, because we will be talking about Wendell Smallwood or Josh Adams or Corey Clement at some point throughout the season. And that's just my personal opinion on it. But
for sure,
you can argue one or two. I don't hate the Sanders landing spot either. This is going to save us from talking about Sanders a lot here later on.
True.
But I loved the Jacobs landing spot, and I think that you are going to see this type of debate here. So I'm glad we disagree on this across a lot of the dynasty industry. Whether it's Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs, it's
already started, and you got to add in the third guy as soon as we get to him. So there's a lot of debate between the 1, 2, and 3 on who should be 1, but I think the top 3 is locked.
I think it is too, and I think you're going to see him in various orders. We'll get to the other guy here later. The other thing Oakland did that I really like, honestly, Hunter Renfroe at 5'11". They needed a slot guy, and they got one relatively cheap that has great hands, that is a pure slot receiver. He's not going to work outside. He's not going to run outside. And you know what? He's not ever going to be the guy. He's not going to be the guy there. He's a depth. I think he is a safer depth piece, though, that, like, we make the Brian Hartline comparison for Adam Humphries.
Yep.
And I think that that's exactly the type of productivity that I think that's Renfroe's ceiling is Adam Humphries. Humphries is bigger, but that type of productivity, 70, 80 targets on a good week, but a good fill-in piece and a piece that I think is going to be decent to have on your roster that landed in a spot where he's not necessarily blocked at that inside receiver spot.
I mean, he won't be massively fantasy relevant. I think this is a really good NFL move for them because they will give him a guy who can move the chains a lot like a Cole Beasley was. But if injuries occur, or if Derek Carr, gets hungry guys for one game, Hunter Renfroe could at some points have some decent fantasy games.
I think he could too, and that's why I look at Hunter Renfroe as somebody I want late in my rookie draft that I'm okay with spending a pick on. Just because I think that there is going to be value there and that he will be relevant and he is somebody that will help my team. It's not a complete dart throw where I'm taking a guy who has no floor for a maybe ceiling. I think that Hunter Renfroe will have floor and is a safer way to spend a late round pick if it comes to that. Obviously, next few weeks we'll be taking a pulse of where the dynasty community is, but I don't. He's got a clear path to production, which is one of the first things you can ask for.
Yep.
Speaking of clear paths to production, New England was completely missing a wide receiver one, so they went out and drafted N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, they true wide receiver one, and one of these shining spots, and one has now looked down upon a pretty weak draft class. Like you said, I love this landing spot. He should come in and be the number one outside player there. We've seen him play inside, so we can give it that versatility, even with Julian Edelman there. But it's not like Philip Dorsett's going to compete for targets. There's no tight end named Gronk there that's going to take away other production.
Yep, you got
N'Keal Harry could be one of the rare, sites of a rookie wide receiver producing potential wide receiver 2 numbers.
It's basically Harry, Edelman, and James White is going to be that receiving game. Josh Gordon's not expected to play. Dorsett, like you said, he might compete for targets, but that's about it. Chris Hogan's gone. So,
yeah.
Malcolm Mitchell retired, so you don't. And Demaryius Thomas is coming off an Achilles injury and may not play again, and hasn't been productive for 2 years anyway. So
I don't even think he makes the team because I don't think he's not going to get on the field.
N'Keal Harry, the 101.
He is my 101 in 1 QB leagues, and likely my 102.
Mine as well. Mine as well. All right, on to Minnesota. So this first chance I'm really going to have to talk to you about any of these 3 picks. Let's start with Irv Smith Jr. My initial thought to this was, this is fantastic. This is what we've seen with Johnny Smith. It's what we've seen with Ian Thomas. Rudolph, we know, is probably not long for the Vikings roster long term. But Irv Smith Jr. is a perfect succession plan who could start to see productivity anyway.
So what's great about this draft pick is that Kyle Rudolph is a likely candidate to be a cap casualty, especially going into the summertime where teams want to kind of free up a salary cap for potential situations of other teams who cut players or because of injuries. He has no dead cap to him, and he's on his last year of his deal, which means for sure that he's gone next season. Irv Smith could step into the tight end 1 spot for Minnesota, a very good offense in its own right that wants to be balanced and use their tight ends. We've seen Kirk Cousins do that in his time in Washington when they had an actual ideal tight end. Rudolph was a little bit murky this year, but the offense in general was pretty up and down for the most part. I love Irv Smith. There is some potential, downtimes with him just because he's so a pretty raw target. He's the youngest, I think, player in this class. He's not even 21 yet. Yeah. So great pick, and I think my true tight end 3 now.
Yeah, I think he is my true tight end 3 now as well. He's very, very raw. Well, it's going to be close because him and Sternberger were fighting for my 3 and 4, and they both kind of landed in very similar positions. I think Smith has the potential to probably produce earlier, maybe as soon as this year if Rudolph's a cap casualty. However, I think Sternberger as a receiver and a route runner is a bit more refined than Smith is, even though I see the talent with Smith as well. I think it's a good landing spot. He's absolutely draftable. He's absolutely in the conversation for at least top 4 tight ends, if not top 3. And he's got a path to production within the next 2 years at worst.
If Rudolph does get cut, though, I think there's an argument to be made about us taking Irv Smith as just a late round flyer in redrafts.
There is.
I mean, yes, he could be free, but when Rudolph does get cut, and I do think that he will, I think there's an opportunity for him to shine there, and he will rise because there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be high on him.
Yep. All right. Moving on to 2 late round wide receivers the Vikings picked up. So like some other teams, the Vikings don't necessarily. We know about Diggs and Thielen. They don't necessarily have a locked-in wide receiver 3, so they're adding Dylan Mitchell and BZ Johnson to that mix, and I didn't think BZ Johnson was that good, but Dylan Mitchell's a guy that you and I both liked a lot, Dan, that I think is built to kind of be, he played some inside, played some outside, kind of like almost a Stephon Diggs light, not quite as athletic, but I think Dylan Mitchell is a very intriguing prospect here.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Mitchell's a little bit on the lighter side, but he's
probably better suited for slot.
Yes, he was productive with Oregon. He's a pretty average athlete, but he was able to put up pretty incredible stats. 75 catches, just shy of 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's a punt returner, so that does fill that type of need. I believe Sherrills is gone. Like I said, he did play well both inside and outside. He looked good after the catch, showing good short area quickness to create extra yards. And he also showed the ability to win 50-50 balls. As for his fantasy production, or as for his fantasy upside and outlook, he could be something. As we mentioned, we needed a wide receiver 3 out there in Minnesota, as Laquan Treadwell has been kind of nothing. It just depends on how they want to use their third receiver in this new offense moving forward.
Yep, or if he can break into it. But he is going to be a better, one of the better late round throws, I think. I think he does end up in my top 48 rankings or top 50 or however deep I go. For rookies, almost absolutely, just because there's that path there, like we've talked about.
Yeah. And as for BC Johnson, I haven't watched this film, but I will give it a watch here now that he is a Minnesota Viking, just to see what
I did. It wasn't that fantastic.
Okay.
So, JJ Arcega-Whiteside to Philly as we move on to Philadelphia here. Second round pick, landing spot, second round capital. Very, very good for Arcega-Whiteside. It could spell the end for Nelson Aguilar, but doesn't necessarily have to either. I'd be more worried about Mac Hollins here.
Yeah, I mean, Mac, I think he's been written off the ball. He's had some off the field issues and really hasn't shown much. He's had a couple of nice plays. It depends if they want to move out. It depends if they want to move.
I forgot about Deshaun Jackson too.
Yeah, and then there's Deshaun Jackson. I think that's where it just depends. I mean, they re-signed Alshon Jeffrey last year to a 4-year deal. That's mainly what Whiteside is. He's just a younger, more athletic version of Jeffrey at this point. Maybe not more athletic, but pretty right on par there. They're essentially the same player. Whiteside does show ability to lead, do more, a little bit more after the catch, and he's a great red zone work. His path to touches in year one his path to targets, looks a little bit murky year one.
Just depends on what they do with Nelson Aguilar, I guess.
Exactly. It just depends if they want to move him to the slot, if they want to move Deshaun Jackson to the slot and let these two bigger outside receivers play. But again, we still have Zach Ertz, you still have Dallas Goedert, you still have a quarterback that loves to use multiple tight ends and an offense that loves to use multiple tight ends.
Yep.
I like this landing spot long term. I don't see a whole lot of year one production from him though.
I don't either, barring something happening with Aguilar, and even then it's not going to be top 24 or even top 36 production because of what you said, Goddard, Ertz, Jackson, Jeffrey, running backs that are going to have mouths. There's a lot of mouths here.
Yes.
They also took Clayton Thorson with pick 529. He'll compete for the backup job with Nate Sudfeld. I don't know that we need to say a whole lot more here. Philadelphia traditionally carries 3 quarterbacks, especially because Wentz can't seem to stay healthy. So he probably will be on this roster. But, I mean, he's in Philly. He's not a quarterback of the future. He may get a chance to start some games, especially if Sudfeld doesn't work out. But I do think he stays on the roster. Maybe they sneak him through the practice squad, and I've already said too much.
Yeah, move on.
Yep, DK Metcalf, 232 to Seattle. This is painful. I like this landing spot. This landing spot's going to jump him up a little bit for me. Probably from what I have him at 3.
He might be 2 for me.
He
Just
might be
depends
2
on
now.
Put Samuel and Brown now.
Yeah, he might be 2 now. Behind N'Keal Harry. He got a good spot. He's a different type of wide receiver. This is a team that, first off, likes to stretch the field, which DK Metcalf was good at, but he's a different type and a different build of wide receiver than Tyler Lockett, or even Doug Baldwin if he plays again, or the next guy they drafted, Gary Jennings. He differentiates himself as far as the type of wide receiver that he is. He's a big-bodied guy, athletic freak that can stretch the field. They don't pass a ton, so you've got to be concerned about that. I mean, N'Keal Harry is firmly the wide receiver 1. This is a good landing spot, though, especially if Baldwin does retire.
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect, I think, spot for them. And Russell Wilson in the Seattle offense knows how to keep plays alive. Loves to push the football vertically, which fits right into what Metcalf does well. He's still a raw prospect who's got to stay healthy, but and if Seattle wants to actually start throwing the football a little bit more, but because of what other receivers have. With their landing spots not being as great, I think Metcalf, like you said, I think Metcalf has has the argument to be the 102 or at least the wide receiver 2.
Yep. And then Gary Jennings comes in, who's another guy that we know has good speed. With Paul Richardson no longer there and nobody really jumping up and taking hold on that spot, there's a path to Jennings producing. I'm not necessarily going to bet on it, especially as how little this team throws. But, I mean, it's there that we've seen them utilize the annoying back and forth of Tyler Lockett and Paul Richardson in the past. So don't write off Gary Jennings either.
No, and
4th round pick.
Speed guy that could fill in the same type of role that Lockett did or could see wide receiver 3 time, even though they did bring back David Moore.
Yep. And Jennings may even beat out Moore. I don't know. I mean, you invest a 4th round pick in somebody, though, they're going to have a chance, at least a bit of one. Moving on to Jacksonville, Josh Oliver at 305. What were your thoughts on this? Because I felt good about this.
I got to pull up my Josh Oliver notes, so you can go on and give your thoughts.
All right, Josh Oliver. So Josh Oliver, you were higher on Oliver than I was, I think. But Josh Oliver, small school, move tight end. I believe he was Fresno State. Very, very athletic. Lands in a spot where there is no true move tight end with a quarterback in Nick Foles that we know can utilize a move tight end. It's a good landing spot for him. It's a 3rd round investment, which is nothing to sneeze at. He's got a good quarterback for tight end productivity, and he is another one that I think has a path to year 1 productivity. Doesn't have to. Year 2, year 3, you could see it, though. He showed very, very good things in the passing game, and he landed in an all right situation.
Yeah, I forgot that Josh Oliver is the guy that likes to flail his arms around when he runs his routes.
Yep.
16 contested catches in 2019, which led the class. He's fairly athletic, 113, 71st percentile SPARQ score. I think the best thing for him to get some early playing time is his ability to be versatile, as he was used in many different ways as a move tight end,
inside, outside, and in line. He did all 3, if I remember correctly.
Yep. And he also played as wide tight end in the inline. He also was used in jet sweep motions because he is athletic, and I wouldn't be surprised if he took snaps as a fullback too. So
no, me either. So good landing spot for him. He's another guy that could crack the back into some rankings here. And Gardner Minshew. This is interesting. He lands behind Foles. We liked Minshew's tape. The only real issue I had with Minshew was his low release point, leading to a ton of batted balls. Other than that, he was athletic. He had the arm talent. I think he can win this backup job. And Foles, even though he's got some familiarity, is a guy we've seen struggle outside of Philadelphia. So I mean, it could be an insurance policy. We've seen Foles deal with injuries as well. Keep a close eye on Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, I mean he's not the quarterback of the future.
No, he's not.
based
At
on
best,
sixth-round
he's going to be a journeyman.
just based on a 6th-round draft pick. But we've seen other 6th-round quarterbacks carve out a pretty good career, so it's not the death all be all. Nick Foles has always struggled when he's not playing in Philadelphia, also with injuries. So Minshew could be something. He's a camp battle I'm going to watch to see if he can win the QB2 spot.
And I'm going to be rooting for him, and that could be my next Jacksonville jersey. He went up 2 spots because he wears jorts. I can appreciate somebody that wears jorts and a mustache.
You fucking love jorts.
I do love jorts. All right, moving on to the Bears, and they made one pick that made me happy, one pick that made me mad, one pick I didn't care about, and a couple of depth defensive picks. This is the one that made me happy. David Montgomery in Chicago. Great price, immediate opportunity. This was their first pick. They had a hole with Jordan Howard gone. I didn't believe Mike Davis was necessarily going to be it. We know that their issues last year with Jordan Howard was that he couldn't close out a game. He couldn't grind out the yardage that the Bears desperately needed him to grind out. And David Montgomery is a person that can do that not behind a line. Breaks a ton of tackles, incredibly mobile, good complement to Tariq Cohen. Which also brings up another important point, though. I think he's firmly my running back 3 behind Miles Sanders and Josh Jacobs because of Tariq Cohen. And we know how much the Bears love and will use Tariq Cohen.
Yep, I put the same exact notes down. He is my number 3 as well. He should get the opportunity to be the first and second down back. And as you just mentioned here, because of Tariq Cohen and his uses in the passing game, it could limit the ceiling of David Montgomery. Now, where his floor is and what he could actually be will be based on what Chicago can do offensively as a whole with giving him red zone opportunities and things like that. He could be a guy that could just eclipse 1,000 rushing yards, and you're hoping that he can see 10 plus touchdowns in an offense that could continue to get pretty good, or they should continue to get good. As we go into I can't remember his coach's name now, year 2. Matt Nagy. Yeah, as we go into Matt Nagy year 2.
Yep. All right, moving on. We got some tight ends to talk about and an Ohio State wide receiver. Let's start with Jay Sternberger. Jay Sternberger landing in Green Bay behind Jimmy Graham, who's on the tail end of his career. And my note here was basically C. Irv Smith Jr. because I think it's the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, as long as Aaron Rodgers wants to break this whole thing of him not throwing the tight ends. Yep. Jace might be the best tight end that he's had.
Well, and Jace can play slot too, so there's that. I mean, Sternberger's incredibly athletic. You're gonna have to get Jimmy Graham out of the way first, probably your 2 producer.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin landing in Washington, and I like this because McLaurin's gonna have some opportunity. He played outside. We know he's a speedier receiver. We've seen speedier receivers like McLaurin, namely Jamison Crowder. It's like McLaurin's a bit bigger, able to produce in this offense. It's a solid landing spot for a guy that was underrated, and then people kind of blew up about him. And I think this solidifies that people are going to be spending a little bit of draft capital on Terry McLaurin.
And he already has the familiarity with the new quarterback and Haskins.
Yep, there is that as well. So I think McLaurin's going to jump up my boards a bit.
Yeah, the path to targets is
very, very clear.
Yes.
Kahale Warring landed in Houston. Draft capital's good. Landing spot's even better. They drafted kind of an under-the-radar move tight end last year, I believe in Jordan Thomas, and then a blocking tight end whose name is eluding me right now. But Kahale Warring, I think, is a better athlete than even Thomas was. And I think he has a clear path to be able to produce in an offense that traditionally has produced targets to tight ends, even though it wasn't all necessarily one tight end because of injuries, which, by the way, he fits that mold too. Injuries.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Prospect, he played a shit ton of sports in high school, didn't start playing football until senior year in high school. So it may take him a couple of years to get there, but he's in a very friendly tight end offense and surrounded by a lot of players who can't stay healthy as well. So You could find some fantasy value as early as year one, but I think he's more of a 2 to 3 year projected guy as he continues to develop into an actual NFL player.
He probably is. And the more I look at this as I'm just going down these picks, tight ends were the anti-wide receiver. There weren't a ton of wide receivers taken in the first 4 rounds. There were a ton of tight ends taken in the first 4 rounds.
It's a great draft class, and there's a lot of upside, a lot of good landing spots too.
Yep. Dawson Knox goes to Buffalo, another good landing spot. And another guy that was hurt a lot, but when he was on the field was able to produce and look good doing it. And then his crew immediately started putting themselves through tables.
Yeah, I was about to say there's Twitter videos out there of him going through tables already. So please, Dawson Knox, don't get hurt. But very, very, very much underutilized in the Ole Miss offense, but that's just given with the surrounding talent around him.
And what they had around him, exactly what you just said, what they had around him. Buffalo has some guys, but it's really just a bunch of guys. So, and we have seen that offense produce tight ends. The other thing I like about Dawson Knox is we know he can get downfield and run the seam route and work the seam route, which plays into Josh Allen's game.
And he's not a bad blocking tight end. He only has to beat out Tyler Kroft, which isn't that difficult to do.
Tyler Kroft will get more blocking, though. Dawson Knox, especially in pass protection, let's just say thank God Josh Allen's mobile because he gets shoved off blocks pretty easy.
Yes.
Baltimore, Justice Hill joins the track team.
Love it. Right.
Because
one of the few landing spots, or one of the few picks I actually really liked from Baltimore in terms of at least of value.
You know what I like about Baltimore right now, though, Dan? I finally see what the hell they're doing. They're just going to load it up with speed and find ways to use it.
Fuck it. Just throw all the fastest guys out there, throw pitches and see what happens.
Except for Willie Snead. But everything else is going to be just a freaking track meet, and it could be either really fun to watch or really, really disastrous, but there's a ton of speed that's going to be hard to guard. Justice Hill absolutely fits that, and I think Justice Hill in a read option is pretty intriguing.
Now, he's not going to be the main guy. They just brought in Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram's going to get the bulk of the workload here, but Justice Hill, change the pace guy, very much a speed guy. Could be, think of Gio Bernard. I think his ceiling is Chris Thompson if he can get the pass catching work. He is very undersized, but again, you put him out in space, a lot of good things can happen.
Yep. All right, moving through the rest of this a little bit quicker. Trace McSorley lands in Baltimore. Could be a solid backup, and I think they hit on this in the NFL Network. I agree with it. I thought this when he was drafted. He could be used like Taysom Hill the way this offense is going.
And probably won't piss me off as much.
No, probably not. Matt Gay was taken round 5 by Tampa Bay. He's a kicker, so franchise player, absolutely life-altering. Drafting a kicker has never gone bad for Tampa Bay in the history of ever.
But did they trade up for him?
They did not, but in San Francisco, by the way, we didn't mention it, but they drafted a punter in the 4th round, so for the brand, nice job.
Obviously.
Jordan Scarlett lands in Carolina, and there's some mixed things on Jordan Scarlett because he was caught up in some off-field stuff. He looked talented enough when he was on the field, powerful runner with some elusiveness. I like him better than Cameron Artis-Payne, even though it's not necessarily high draft capital and not a high bar, to come in and be the change of pace guy for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I don't dislike Jordan Scarlett. I think for me it was just all the off-field issues. If you can keep his nose clean, he's a lot better running back than where his draft capital was.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of drops, but he got used a shit ton as a pass catcher, which is good to see.
Wow.
So as long as he can change that issue as well, I think we'll be fine. But
they can plan around it though too.
What's that?
They can plan around it though too because they have CMC. He doesn't have to be that good of a pass catcher.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see if the Panthers decide to kind of cut down on CMC's touches.
Jordan Scarlett in Carolina, I could see that being like Jordan Howard / now David Montgomery role, honestly.
Could be if it just depends on
a little bit more drastic of a split.
Yeah.
With CMC obviously playing the Tariq Cohen, but with way more touches.
Yes.
Austin Siebert was drafted at the end of the 5th round by Cleveland, another franchise-changing kicker. They're for sure going to make.
They'll make the playoffs.
That's the reason they're going to make the playoffs.
Should we talk about Easton Stick?
Yeah, sorry, I skipped over him.
over.
We should talk about Easton Stick with the Chargers. So 28th pick in the 5th round is an accurate guy with a good runner, kind of lacks some size, solid success for a backup. He'll compete with Cardale Jones, I believe.
Yes.
For that backup
Geno
spot.
Smith.
And Geno
I think
Smith.
Geno Smith is there too.
I think Geno Smith will be gone. I think Easton Stick makes a team. I don't ever see him being a team's franchise quarterback or an NFL starter, but he could end up being a journeyman backup.
True. We'll give him that.
Travion Williams lands in Cincinnati. I like this a lot with Mark Walton gone and Gio Bernard constantly just kind of teetering there.
Yeah, I mean, this is still the Joe Mixon, so he'll probably end up competing with Rodney Anderson for the backup spot. I think one of them will not make the team, and the other one will. It just depends how much. It just depends how many backup running backs they want to keep. They still have Gio Bernard there as well.
Rodney Anderson will make IR, so it'll be a bingo for a few years.
So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Buffalo drafted Tommy Sweeney, 7-14. He was okay. He doesn't really merit talking about. 7th round
Mike Weber.
tight end, dart throw. Yeah, Mike Weber, who I intentionally skipped over.
Okay.
I didn't really intentionally skip over him. Mike Weber in Dallas is interesting, but the problem is they took Tony Pollard, but I don't think that precludes Mike Weber from being productive because I think Pollard's going to be more of a Tavon Austin type of player based on what we saw.
Yeah. I don't think the backup matters to Zeke. This is his entire show.
I don't either, but it is a wide open job. So
it is. With Rod Smith gone, if you're a Zeke owner in Dynasty, you might as well pick up Mike Weber and throw him on the
because he should likely be the
taxi squad.
Elyse Matt goes to New Orleans behind an older Jared Cook. It's a 7th round pick. I don't really care too much there.
Yep.
And then Miami actually did Chandler Cox, who's going to be a franchise-altering fullback, definitely going to put them back on track. He'll steal 3 touchdowns in a game. But then they went out and drafted Kenyon Drake. Myles Gaskin. Big upside. No draft capital. I do think he's Kenyon Drake-esque. I think he probably could slide in as a backup. He's already better than Kalen Ballage. So
I did like Gaskin more than I like Ballage, so I will agree with that. We'll see if his draft capital plays into this. He'll be competing in a pretty ugly backfield nonetheless, and a pretty ugly offense.
He will. But draft capital not too high, but yeah, it is an ugly backfield, and I still think Drake is. Well, it doesn't threaten Kenyon Drake. Let's leave it that way.
No,
but
shouldn't. Not yet, at least.
Gaskins this year is a lot like John Kelly was to me last year, so I'm going to be forever hopeful.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to the bad. That ends our recap of the good. All of those guys, especially the kickers, likely draftable in your rookie drafts. On to the bad. So this was a landing spot sucks. Draft capital went way backwards. Guys slid. Just things I didn't like for one reason or another. So starting off with Will Grier landing in Carolina. There's one of two ways this can go. First off, I didn't like that he fell to the end of the 3rd round when I thought he was better than some of the quarterbacks taken in the 1st round. I also don't like that he landed in Carolina because they already have their franchise quarterback, unless they're not confident in Cam's shoulder.
That's the only thing I put down. This might shed some light on, on how they feel about Cam long term. 3rd round quarterbacks is really hit or miss is what we think about them in terms of their actual future. We've seen. I think Davis Webb was a 3rd round pick, or was it Kyle Letta, or somebody was a 3rd round pick that was a backup for the Giants too.
It was both of them actually.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that it was back-to-back years, Davis Webb and Kyle Letta.
Yeah, so it's you just never know. But I think he's somebody to draft and stash on your taxi squad in super flex leagues.
I think so too. Look, I think for them to spend a 3rd round pick, they've got to be concerned about Cam Newton because we saw Kyle Allen come in and play well as their backup last year.
Yeah.
We saw their backup quarterbacks produce. I forget what the other one's name was, but he played like one series and got hurt. But we saw their backup quarterbacks produce last year when they took Cam Newton out. So for them it wasn't a pressing need for them, which is why I don't like the landing spot for Grier, but it may say something.
I think it does say something about their backups too. I mean, Kyle Allen, I came in and
Could have
played.
been a flash in the pan, but he did play well.
He played in a meaningless game with the Saints playing all their backups. Now it's good that he flashed.
Yep.
But I think they trust Will. I think Will Greer will be the QB2.
I think he is too.
So that's why I think you need the draft and stash him in Superflex leagues.
Yep. Bryce Love going to Washington. So first off, draft capital. He fell to the end of the 10th round. Landing spot a year after they take Darius Guice. It pretty much ensures that Bryce Love is not going to be the guy. He could have a role, but he's not going to be the guy. And also, medicals are what hurt him. It came out that there was swelling and some things to where the progress from his ACL recovery was not necessarily where they wanted it to be. But then you've got Darius Guice with his own ACL problems, Adrian Peterson. So they've got the market cornered on running backs with bad knees. They'll sign Jay Ajayi next week.
Probably.
But
he's the backup to Chris Thompson. I do like Bryce Love. It's just you hit the nail on the head here. It's his path to touches is pretty bad.
Yep. Jets continue to corner the market on mediocre tight ends. They took Trayvon Wesco, 419.
I don't care.
It's a wasted 4th-round pick, honestly. Wesco's a blocking tight end.
I agree.
Chicago went out and wasted one of their few draft picks on Riley Ridley. Here's why I don't like it. He's a worse Anthony Miller.
He might be a worse Javion Wims.
Well, Javon Wims is huge, though.
I know.
But he is a worse Javon Wims because he couldn't beat out Wims for touches.
Nope.
So, a 4th-round pick on Riley Ridley seems steep. I don't really see him being productive, and I'm going to fade him hard, especially since I think he is going to be like option 6
so many
for
receivers
targets.
In that backfield or in that core right now.
Oh, yeah.
So many.
Name guys, and there's a UDFA we liked also that ended up there. So
it's crowded as fuck.
Yeah, a lot of them are going to get cut.
Yeah, so I think really will make the team just because you got to defend your second pick, even if it is in the 4th round. But it's not pretty.
No, it's not. Speaking of not pretty, Dallas drafted Tony Pollard, which we kind of made the comparison to him to like a worse Jalen Samuels, where his best work I think was done as a pass catcher, even though he played wide receiver, some H-back, some running back, whatever. But he didn't necessarily have great hands. And they already have Tavon Austin, so I don't know why you need another player that fits that role.
Yeah, I'm not. We're talking about a wasted 4th-round pick. I mean, you don't need a backup to Zeke this early, especially one that's not a true running back.
Not even a true Zeke backup, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he maybe plays out of the slot a little bit. I'm not entirely sure.
So I didn't hate Mike Weber because I don't think Tony Pollard's going to be strictly a running back. He's going to be used in different ways, I think, but not really going to be relevant. Next couple of guys that weren't even really on our radar anywhere. These are just reaches. Raquel Armstead to Jacksonville. Doesn't do a whole lot to solidify Fournette. Quadri Olison to Atlanta. He really did nothing to jump out at all. He's just a speed guy. I don't think he poses a threat to Freeman or Smith or Brian Hill even.
There's a guy on Twitter that started to preach Raquel Armstead because he hates Fournette so much. It's like, okay.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones to the Giants. We talked about this on Thursday. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. We don't like Daniel Jones. I don't even think he's a development quarterback. They wasted a 6th-round pick here. I don't think he's going to be worth anything. I'm keeping him out of my rookie rankings.
I think the only thing that's good about this is that it should mean that the Giants will suck for the next 2 years and then take Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
Which would suck because then he's on the Giants.
Yep. They took Darius Slayton, who's probably going to work out as more of a special teamer, I guess. I don't know that the Giants needed any more middling wide receivers, but they got one.
Yay.
Keyshawn Johnson, 601 to Arizona. I don't know that they needed more inside guys, which I think is where Johnson's going to have to play because he can't separate on the outside. And, they've got Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella and Larry Fitzgerald and...
He'll be competing with Chad Williams to be the number 5 receiver on the team and likely not make the team.
Yep. Caden Smith ends up completely blocked by George Kittle and Garrett Selleck, 603 to San Francisco. So that sucks.
yeah, I guess blocking tight end and 2 tight end sets is pretty much what he's worth right now.
Yep. Travis Fulgham, he never showed up on my radar. I don't like him to Detroit.
Nope.
He's a 6'2" wide receiver and that's for real this time. This isn't like the recap from year one of us. He really is 6'2", who just doesn't really seem to fit anything that they're doing. Isaac Noeta, even though it's the 7th round, I don't understand why. You've got blocking tight ends already, and you just spend an early pick on T.J. Hawkinson.
It just makes no sense to me.
Yep. Dexter Williams to Green Bay also makes no sense. Not really a need for them. They've got 2 backs they tend to split stuff between anyway. I like Dexter Williams' tape, but I hate this landing spot.
Is he a pass catching back?
He did a little bit of both.
So okay, then I don't care about him.
Yeah, I mean, he fits the MO, but he's going to have a tough path to carries. Speaking of tough paths to anything, Chris White in the 7th to Chicago makes very little sense as well. He's a speedster. I guess he may have been drafted as a return guy, but they've got
Cordero Patterson.
You got Cordero Patterson, and you got so much speed everywhere else.
You won't make the team.
Yeah, Cordero Patterson and Tariq Cohen.
Yeah.
So I don't think he makes the team unless he beats out Taquan Mizzell for the 4th running back spot.
Sure.
And then Terry Godwin to Carolina. Why? They didn't need him.
Won't make the team.
Yeah, I don't think so either. All right.
Should we do a beer review?
Empty. I was actually going to do that right now because I've got the ugly and then some quick hits left. So this would be about the halfway point.
Perfect.
As far as notes go.
Beer review.
All right, what did you think? Because I actually am out.
I think I just took my last sip. May have one left. I liked it. It's the coffee is not super strong, which I like because the chocolate does stick out. I'm drinking it out of the can, out of the glass, so I can't give you what the color is. But it's a solid espresso stout. I don't feel like I'm jumping on the wall, so I don't know where the espresso comes from. But it's a solid, I guess, coffee stout.
Yeah, it is a coffee stout, technically. Yeah. I think espresso is just a fancy way to call it that. The color, it's about what you expect from a stout, maybe slightly on the light, slightly translucent, so a little bit on the light side, but not to a point where it's bordering on ale or anything like that. Coffee flavor is mild. It's not overpowering, not overwhelming. It makes it very, very easy drinking. Doesn't overpower the roast. It's low alcohol content, so it's got a lot of good flavor. So yeah, overall very solid.
It kind of drinks like a milk stout because of that lighter
smooth.
Body to
Yeah.
it. It's not a thick or like even a true medium body stout.
Yeah.
It's refreshing almost.
Yep, not quite as sweet or creamy, but I see where you get that though.
So thank you to Gary Jennings for not Jennings. I'm sorry, Gary for not sending us this beer. Thank you for not doing those things.
We appreciate you for not doing that ever.
Yes.
All right. Back to the draft review. We're going to try to move through this a bit quicker, but this is where a lot of conversation points are going to happen. Now that we took a break going through guys that didn't have conversation points. This is kind of the ugly of stuff. It's not bad. They didn't slip. They didn't land in terrible spots, but there's definitely some questions. It's a little ugly maybe. So as we continue with the good and the bad and the ugly, we're on to the ugly. TJ Hawkinson, 108 to Detroit. And the question here is, will they use him? There's one argument for the fact that I think Matt Patricia is trying to recreate the Patriots, which would mean you're going to use the hell of a tight end. But then there's the Eric Ebron thing and the fact that Detroit's never really used the hell out of a tight end.
And you got Dara Bevel, who's been really known to just be a true runner, or like run an offense that wants to run the football a shit ton, which works well, in TJ Hawkinson's favor because he is a good run blocker and just blocker in general. But will he be fantasy relevant in year one? I think he'll have some decent games. I think he'll surprise people, and I think he'll be a guy that you see picked up in waivers. I don't think his relevancy will come until year two. I still love him. I think he's my tight end too. I think I'm going to bump up Fant to 1 year just because of year one usage or what I believe will happen. But he might slip a bit if people out there like Irv Smith or Jay Sternberg a little bit more with their own landing spots.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there is a path to Hawkinson having year one productivity, so he is my two. But I just don't. There's such a risk. Like, it's almost, well, it's the Gesicki thing from last year too, right? I think Hawkinson's better than Gesicki was, but I mean, it's the same type of thing. You land in a good landing spot, but are they going to utilize him?
Well, for me, I guess it's kind of like Dallas Goedert, except Goddard was blocked.
Goddard was,
that's friendly offense.
Yep.
That where he still flashed, even though he was the backup there. It's Hawkinson is will there be enough usage in him on a weekly basis for him to be?
That's why I made the Gesicki comparison, because Goddard is more of a probably Irv Smith comparison, honestly.
Well, Goddard is extremely balanced. That's why Hawkinson's there. I mean,
player comp, you're right. I agree with that. It's situation wise that I was making that comparison. Player wise, you're completely right. Hawkinson's more Goddard, but situationally speaking,
true.
So San Francisco drafted 2 wide receivers, Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd, while they still have Marquise Goodwin and Dante Pettis.
And Jordan Matthews.
And Trent Taylor.
Taylor and everything else.
The question here, can Samuel and Hurd find playing time, first off?
You mean Deebo and Jalen?
Yeah, Samuel and Hurd.
Yeah. I know.
Can they find playing time? Who finds it? Is Jalen Hurd more of a developmental piece as he still learns the position? How do they use him? And Deebo Samuel being a slot guy, I mean, does that force Pettis? I mean, that does force Pettis outside. Do they keep Marquise Goodwin? There's just a lot here that needs to be figured out with this wide receiving core.
Yeah, I think Deebo will be he'll be one of the 3 receivers on the field in 3 receiver sets, depending on what they do with Goodwin. Jordan Matthews, who's also shown flashes if he can stay healthy. We all know about him. Hurd is a true developmental piece, but in an offense that has a shit ton of receivers, how long are you going to wait on him? I believe he's already 23 years old. He showed a lot of upside in Baylor, but these are both reaches. I love both players. I'm a huge Deebo Samuel fan, but the 3rd wide receiver taken is a bit of a question mark.
Yep, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm looking at the camera when I say this too. Do not buy into Matt Hicks's call out Jalen Hurd hype train. Because he's going to try to start it. We love you, Matt. We love you, but there is not a clear path to Jalen Hurd targets in San Francisco. It is not a sure thing, and because there's no guarantee that he's going to develop into an NFL caliber wide receiver. Is it worth it? Yeah, sure. And I'm sure Matt, because he does a great job, is going to correctly set where that hype should be at, and not convince people to go overdraft Jalen Hurd. I don't worry about that at all. I was just having a little fun with that. But you got to know that Jalen Hurd is not going to be a year 1 or year 2 producer, probably.
We didn't even talk about George Kittle and his touches. You have 3 running backs who are proven pass catchers in this league.
Dante Pettis did enough to where he deserves touches. Marquise Goodwin, when he's on the field, has done enough to deserve touches. So I think I think you're right. I think Deebo is the 3rd wide receiver here right now. I don't know how relevant it is.
It just depends on who gets cut. Because there's going to be some players who will not make this team.
Yep. You can't carry 17 wide receivers.
No.
So we'll see how all that plays out, but it's not clear cut. A.J. Brown landing in Tennessee. I hated this. First off, bad quarterback play. I do not trust Marcus Mariota to support 2 wide receivers. He's barely only ever supported 1 in his career.
It's like 0.5.
What's that?
I said he's like 0.5 of a receiver that he can support.
Yeah, it depends on how you felt about Rashard Matthews there, more or less. Yep. I do think A.J. Brown's a pretty good Rashard Matthews replacement. But then you've got Corey Davis. What does this mean for Corey Davis? You're going to put these 2 on the field together because you can. You can put A.J. Brown in the slot. You could even keep Taywan Taylor on the field and put A.J. Brown outside opposite of Corey Davis. The question is, and the answer is no, is there going to be enough volume to go around as long as Marcus Mariota is quarterback? And the answer is no. Now, if Ryan Tannehill eventually takes over, I love A.J. Brown in a Jarvis Landry type role with Ryan Tannehill.
Who has better after the catch ability because he's actually super athletic.
Yep.
It's really difficult to project because it depends on how Tennessee feels about Corey Davis at this point in time. 3 years in, and he hasn't shown. He's shown enough flashes. He can't stay healthy as well. He's been battling injuries, I think, since his rookie season.
And quarterback play definitely hasn't helped him out.
Exactly, and it's tough. I thought they would take another receiver. I love the pairing of Brown and Davis. Again, just like you, I don't like the entire offense, and it's the situation as a whole because they've hammered home on wanting to build the offense around Derrick Henry. So Brown may take a couple of years until the offense can figure his shit out. I don't think he'll be massively fantasy relevant though in redraft leagues this year.
Yeah, me either. And Dynasty, we'll have to take a close, long look at where we rank him.
He's gonna slip a little bit, but I think he's still a top 5 based on talent and potential.
I could agree with
path
that.
to touches there.
I think that's what flipped for me though. Is I think DK Metcalf jumped him because of the path to productivity.
Yeah.
Did he though? Russell
We'll
Wilson's
see.
a better quarterback, but the offenses are about equally opposed to passing the football.
True.
So who knows? We'll talk more about that later. Drew Sample. Cincinnati reached for him in the second round.
This is great for Joe Mixon.
It is great for Joe Mixon because Drew Sample is a fantastic blocker.
Drew Sample's a fantastic blocker. He didn't drop a pass. I think he didn't drop a pass in any of his games. So he does give you that type of upside in terms of a trusted pass catcher. But in terms of fantasy production, that's not Drew Sample. He's there strictly to be the blocking tight end for Joe Mixon.
Yeah, they still got an eye for it too. I mean, a second round pick, good for him. If it happens, I'm thinking a 2 or 3 or later though. So he's a guy that you're going to snap off of waivers at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
Ryan Finley lands in Cincinnati. Dalton's in his last year. This is a reach on a guy that we didn't really like. Apparently what wowed teams with him was his brain and his ability to learn things and to dissect things is apparently very coachable. And the arm talent wasn't so bad to where I think he couldn't be something, but this is a 1-year project. They like what they see. They may roll with him. They don't like what they see. They're going to draft somebody else. And if Dalton kills it, then they'll re-sign him. There's no sure path to Ryan Finley starting, but I will say he has a better chance than some other quarterbacks do.
Ryan Finley will stick in the league long enough for the very reason that he knows how to dissect, knows how to can learn things quickly. I don't think he has the talent to be a true starter every year, but he may give you some decent games here and there.
This is upside Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, without the swag.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking as I talk about him, is that his arm's just a lot like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Same thing as soon as you said that teams like his brain for that. He'll keep a role.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll ever be a starter though.
Nope, but he will be a streamer probably at some point.
And that makes me sad.
Yep. Rodney Anderson goes back into the 6th round. We talked a lot about him, just a ton of injury concerns. We talked about him a bit earlier. He's going to compete with Travion Williams. If he stays healthy, he very well could beat out Travion Williams. Gio could get cut. They could keep both of them, but it's the Joe Mixon show.
It's the backfield of Oklahoma running backs.
Yep.
With Ronnie Anderson and Joe Mixon. If you're someone like me who believed in Ronnie Anderson's talent, this is a terrible landing spot. And a lot like John Kelly was last year, I don't know if Ronnie Anderson's even draftable.
Yeah. Miles Sanders, I'm just kind of gloss over him because, I mean, unless you feel like we need to talk about him more, but we kind of talked about him a lot when we hit on Josh Jacobs. So I don't think we need to dissect that situation anymore.
No.
Mecole Hardman, who's a guy I didn't pay a lot of attention to, seemed more strictly speed, but then again, maybe could be Tyreek Hill. He's another Georgia receiver. He lands in Kansas City. I don't know if this is actually good, especially if Tyreek goes someplace. I don't think it is, but it could be.
I'm going to have to go back and watch Mecole Hardman. The buzz on Twitter is that he's not really worth the fucking thing and that he's there to fill in these special teams.
That's how I felt about it. But do you spend a back-end second-round pick on a guy that you project as just being a special teamer?
If we're going to talk about upside, yeah, I think you have to follow the offense and his potential path to touches, because even Sammy Watkins, the next guy who can't stay healthy at all either. Mm-hmm. Mecole could be something.
They didn't go out and draft anything else.
No,
So
and they spent a high day 2 pick on him.
if
Said something.
Yeah, and if Tyreek Hill goes, they're going to have to rely on Mecole Hardman.
Harmon could be. You could see Harmon as a mid-second, where people start to feel comfortable in taking their pure upside players is where Harmon will start to go, because he's got one of the highest potential ceilings, just given what we've seen from this offense. If he can develop more.
Yep. All right, Paris Campbell lands in Indianapolis. The big question for him is going to be, can he differentiate enough? We know T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y.
I don't know why that scared me off so much. We know T.Y. Hilton's more of a field stretcher and kind of in the same way Paris Campbell is. I did think Paris Campbell showed that he could be a route runner, but you've also got Devin Funchess there, again, who's a bigger body. So, again, this is kind of like, I'm going to have Campbell ranked ahead of Hardman. I guarantee that.
Yeah, I can see that. He's a better talent. I actually like this landing spot with T.Y. getting a little bit older, battling injuries himself. He's kind of lost a bit of a step. I think this is a good, I won't say replacement, but a good complementary piece to what that is, because Andrew Luck, as we've seen, doesn't mind throwing the football a shit ton, loves to push the football vertically. Maybe not so much early on when his shoulder wasn't still, I think maybe not 100%, but this could be a very good fit for them, especially if we get to see what we saw from them with, with Ohio State and getting a lot of yak opportunity.
Yeah, I liked it, but I don't like it at the same time. Speaking of things I kind of like but don't like, Andy Isabella landing in Arizona, and I would love this normally if it weren't for the existence of Christian Kirk. I think that they're really similar types of players. They're both solid route runners, both solid hands, both smaller guys, both guys that possess a decent amount of speed. Isabella a bit more so than Kirk. But the problem is both of them need to play inside. And this almost ensures you're moving Fitzgerald back outside.
A lot of this concerns me, because I'm going to group up Akeem Butler here, because he was also taken 401 first pick of the 3.
Yes, we do need to talk Akeem Butler too.
Because one of the nice things about Butler is that you can use them both inside and outside. When you draft Christian Kirk last year, when you draft Andy Isabella right around the same spot as Kirk was last year, that moves Butler outside, or that moves him outside full time if he starts with these other 3 receivers. I do like the offense and what they're trying to do there. I don't know where the path the targets are going to be for. So we want to say that Christian Kirk is wide receiver 1 here, but I like both Isabella. I like him and Butler. It's just hard for me to see who's going to be the main beneficiary of this new shape up for Arizona.
I will say from a Cliff Kingsbury perspective, Isabella and Kirk, I'm going to state Kirk because he's there, he's established, he's got a year there, even though everything around him just changed. I think he's built more to be an NFL receiver than Isabella is. I like Isabella. I do think he will be relevant and is going to be worth a draft pick. And Hakeem Butler, I like Hakeem Butler because he's different than the other 2 guys. And by that, I mean he's bigger. He's not a strict, a guy that's going to blow you away with speed. He's going to more body out defenders and not necessarily do a ton yak-wise. I do think this pushes him outside, but I like Hakeem Butler probably more than I like Andy Isabella because he's different than Christian Kirk.
I think what we'll see here, Butler may not get a lot of production year 1 as it kind of reshapes his receiving core.
Yep.
And he might be a year 2 guy, a guy that we talk about buying in the offseason because of people falling in and out of love with him. It's like his slide really shocked me. So
well, and Kirk did play some outside too when he was healthy with Larry Fitzgerald also. So who knows how this is going to shake out? But it's the path to targets, especially for Andy Isabella, is cloudy.
We should hopefully know a lot more come summer.
Yep. Deontay Johnson, Pittsburgh at 302. I just think this is a flat out reach. I saw nothing from Deontay Johnson that I liked.
This is the draft pick they got from Oakland. This is the player they took to replace Antonio Brown. Or I mean, obviously one of the players to help replace him, but this is a massive reach. I'm gonna have to go back and watch him, but
I know Miguel said he liked him a bit more than the other guy out of Toledo, but I don't think either of them were necessarily great. And I just where they took him in the top of the third round, there's just so many other people on the board that I thought I liked a bit more, that I liked more for this offense. And as much as I hate to say it, this is good for James Washington because I don't think Deontay Johnson's gonna really threaten his targets any.
I guess it just depends who's the new three. If they want to, they've been historically good at developing receivers. So it's maybe they see something that they like in them. Maybe they do see a little bit of, Antonio Brown do his game.
Maybe. I don't know how much I can buy into it other than draft capital though.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of things Pittsburgh did that didn't make sense, Benny Snell at the 4.20.
Jesus.
Just why? I mean, he's big between the tackles back. He's not much of a pass catcher, which you need your backs to be able to receive. He's not as fluid as James Conner. He's going to probably be the third running back on their depth chart if I had to take a guess.
I think if Conner goes down, this could be their Conner kind of insurance, then it'll be just a mixture of Snell and Jalen Samuels. The Samuels is just obviously more than he's just really just a pass catcher. He's shown that he can be a runner. I think this is their James Conner insurance.
Well, I'm going to throw that out there though too, right? They do not mix running backs, even when James Conner goes down, even when Le'Veon Bell goes down. Tomlin doesn't do it. They just do not use more than one running back. It's the same reason I shut up Jalen Samuels truthers last year. And it's got to be one or the other if something happens to James Conner, and I would put it on Jalen Samuels because he's more dynamic.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say that.
Yeah, I know.
Zach Gentry, 503, huge tight end, a ton to learn. He's firmly behind McDonald. Pittsburgh did not do anything that made me feel good about this draft in the third, fourth, or fifth round.
I mean, it makes me happy because they just really fucked up so badly outside of Devin Bush.
Yeah.
As a Ravens fan, I'm happy. As a fantasy guy who used to love Pittsburgh in terms of their production, no.
We're going to have to relearn what we thought we knew about everybody not named James Conner or Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
Darrell Henderson lands in Los Angeles with a third-round pick. One, this says stuff about Todd Gurley's knees, I think. It's crowded backfield, though. They brought Malcolm Brown back in.
Yes.
And John Kelly still being there. He was a guy that we were super high on last year, and now you throw Darrell Henderson into that mix. We think Henderson and Kelly are supremely talented. That's going to be a training camp battle I keep a close eye on to see who wins that.
I think just based on what we saw for draft capital, we saw that John Kelly couldn't beat out Malcolm Brown. I think John Kelly is the odd man out. They decided to only keep 3 backs. At least Henderson can fill the true pass catching role there if they want to reduce the amount of touches Gurley gets. If any of your Gurley owners is still feeling a little bit murky after this, go out and buy him because I love Darrell Henderson, but he's not a threat to his true production.
Yeah, but it does say the fact that they spent a third-round pick on a back, I think, says something about how confident they are in Gurley's knees or wanting to ride him as a bell cow next year. So that's something to pay attention to. Devin Singletary lands in Buffalo. I really just don't care for whatever that's worth. Damian Harris in New England. So
I like it.
He's in New England. We know he's going to be used. How much remains to be seen. What does this say about Sony Michel?
That you don't believe in his needs because it's as bad as Jay Ajayi's?
I'm with you.
I think they don't. I think they don't see Michel as a true 3-down back in a 16-game type of season. Damian Harris will not threaten any James White's work at all. He could be a goal line back. He could be a better athletic version of LeGarrette Blount to the Deion Lewis,
or even Rex Burkhead,
or Rex Burkhead, because Harris did show some upside as a pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
What I do know is that Damian Harris will be an RB1 at least 2 times this year.
Yeah. No, I think he'll finish as an RB1 at least 2 times this year, and I do think that this cuts into Sony Michel's work, and we're going to have to project as such. Miles Boykin at the 330 lands in Baltimore. Can Jackson support him? I mean, look, they're making this track meet, and he's a big target. So I like the player. It's going to be, though, can Lamar Jackson support him, and how do they manage this track meet and everybody's targets, and how many targets are there really that are going to be there.
So I'm going to combine them with Marquise Brown because I don't think we even talked about Brown
I did
yet.
not talk about Hollywood.
So this is in the same type of vein. Can this offense and can Jackson support one receiver? Brown's a better fit. Massive reach. I don't like the pick at all. I like Brown the player, just not the pick. I do like Boykin, but this offense is not fit for him. But I think someone that you can draft and stash, because if Jackson struggles and Baltimore looks elsewhere within the next 2 years when the quarterback class is being better, he could be something in a couple years.
Or if he doesn't struggle, somebody's going to be relevant. But with both of them being there and this offense being what it is, Miles Boykin and Marquise Brown will both be drafted someplace. They will both be ranked someplace. It is not going to be highly, though.
I think you're going to see a lot of people taking Brown in the first round of your rookie drafts.
I won't own any of them.
I'm not going to own him because I don't believe in him as a full long-term wide receiver.
I don't believe in the Ravens.
I don't believe in the Ravens right now either. I mean, in terms of supporting wide receivers, I don't. This is a run first team. If Jackson does get better, that'll help. But I think guys like Brown will be reached on because of draft capital.
Yep. All right, moving to the last set real quick. Alexander Madison, 339, lands in Minnesota. That type of draft capital, he'll compete with Mike Boone and I guess maybe Rock Thomas for the backup spot. I think he's got an inside edge because of draft capital, the other two being undrafted, to have the Latavius Murray role. Dalvin Cook, we know, has had health issues. Some question the ability to be a bell cow back. I am kind of among those some because I think he'll be far and away be the carry leader and the touch leader in that backfield. I think he will be the guy. It might be 70-30, though, because of his injury history if they try to preserve him. And I think that's where Alex Madison, if he can win that backup job, comes into play. And the draft capital does give him an edge.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that they took a backup running back in the third round. They traded up for him, so they do see something that they like. Problem with Madison, it's the Boise State thing. I mean, we fell in love with Jeremy McNichols. Doug Martin was productive every now and then, it seemed like. So the track record of them producing NFL running backs, it's murky. 4.7 yards per carry in his college career isn't super desired, but he will steal some touchdowns from Cook. He will be more of a thorn in my side to Cook owners, as I own Cook a lot of places. But he is an RB2 there. You don't trade up back into the third round over undrafted running backs, one of which has some off the field issues. One of them can't stay healthy. This is his role, though. It should be his role.
Should be his role, and he's an RB2 with cuff value because it's an off-injured running back.
Yeah.
So that's the other part. That when you talk RB2s, there's RB2s that have some standalone value, and then after you get past those RB2s that have standalone value, the next thing you want to look for is RB2s with cuff value, where the RB1 gets hurt a decent amount, and that he fits that.
Yeah. Somehow.
Yep. Foster Moreau to Oakland. It's a good landing spot, but, question the talent as a move tight end. We thought that Oakland was a spot where you really kind of wanted a tight end to land. I don't know that Foster Moreau's the guy I want landing there, but Foster Moreau's a very, very good blocker, both in pass protection and the run game. It's a good NFL pick, even if it's not a good fantasy pick.
I actually don't hate this pick because his path to targets could actually be pretty decent if he can win the starting tight end job or find himself as a starting tight end throughout his first year. He could be a guy that we see show up in year 2 or 3. He is athletic. He's
athletic.
The combine,
and we know that
all you really want at this point, because you see teams use their athletic tight ends in different ways, even if they weren't used a lot in the passing game in college.
He's athletic, and we know that LSU has a very, very good way of hiding their talented players too. So he could come in and completely blow up. But just based on what you saw in college, though, he's a better NFL pick. I agree. Yes, he has a path to targets. He's athletic enough to be a move tight end. He might have to learn that at the NFL level, though.
Yep, I agree.
Travis Homer landing in Seattle. He's going to fight for a roster spot, but it's a mess. That backfield is an absolute mess, and I don't see him being that much different than J.D. McKissick. So we'll see which one of them stick.
The Mike Davis replacement, maybe.
Yep. Kelvin Harmon to Washington.
Jesus, he is the ESB this year. He is the guy that many thought would be a day 2 pick that fell to the back end of the 6th round. Not pretty.
But we talk path to targets, and what does Kelvin Harmon have in Washington? Even though he's a 6th round pick, a really, really good path to targets.
Yeah, except I think he would have projected better as a slot receiver
And he's not
in
going to
NFL,
be.
and they have one of the most underrated slot receivers in Trey Quinn there.
Yeah.
But, path to touch is real there for him, or a path to targets. The draft capital is not, so it just depends on how and where they want to put him on the depth chart.
Yeah.
But not a lot of players to beat out.
No, there isn't a ton of players to beat out. And I agree with you completely as far as I think it would have been way better had they been able to get him in a position where he could play slot.
Yeah.
So.
And they might, because Trey Quinn's not a model, picture model of health there either. He's been banged up most of his rookie year. But what this is good for is if you do like Kelvin Harmon's talent, i.e. Matt Hicks, shout out Matt Hicks again, you can get him for likely a mid-second, maybe even lower.
Yep.
Because it's going to push him down significantly just based on draft capital.
Yep. And then last up, Jarrett Stidham landing in New England. This is just like Danny Etling last year, I think. He's going to compete for the backup spot. They're just throwing mid-round picks at a quarterback that maybe they find one they like.
They just want a decent backup that they can trade a second-round pick for.
Yep.
Or they can trade for a second-round pick.
Or they find somebody that they trust to eventually be the heir apparent to Tom Brady, which they clearly haven't found yet. That's why they're still drafting quarterbacks.
Exactly.
But don't buy in, because we buy into it every year. He could be the heir apparent. He could be the heir apparent. I'm just not even going to preach that narrative.
No.
There's always the could be. He's got to show it, though.
Outside of one season, Tom Brady doesn't get hurt. They protect him so well.
Right.
He's so smart with the football in terms of getting the ball out quickly.
Yep. All right. Some guys that didn't land on my radar, and then we'll go ahead and talk undrafted free agents real quick. Ty Johnson is a running back that went to Detroit. These are all guys we're going to have to watch for we make final rankings. Juwan Winfrey was a wide receiver that landed in Denver out of Colorado. Marcus Green lands in Atlanta. He's a wide receiver out of Louisiana Monroe. These are all 6th round picks, by the way. Scott Miller is a wide receiver from Bowling Green that went to Tampa Bay, so he's pretty well blocked. Darwin Thompson is a running back that landed in Kansas City, so that's at least mildly intriguing. And Colin Gillespie is a something that I didn't write down that landed in Houston. I think he was a running back as well. So.
I may watch these guys if any of them make the team, but it's late day 3 picks. I'm not entirely excited for them.
The only ones I'm kind of interested in would be Ty Johnson in Detroit, just because there's not a whole lot behind Carrion, who's been hurt a decent amount, and he athletically profiled well. Potentially Winfrey. I have no care to watch Marcus Green for Atlanta or Scott Miller in Tampa Bay. Darwin Thompson, maybe.
There's a UDFA that I like so much more.
There is for me too. And then Colin Gillespie, I'm not going to watch. There's maybe 3 guys on that list.
Yeah.
All right. You mentioned it. Let's go ahead and talk UDFA. Starting off, Tyree Jackson lands in Buffalo, quarterback.
I love this because he's Josh Allen without the arm talent, which is really funny to say.
And a much more wild delivery. Maybe he's going to learn from Josh Allen.
If Josh Allen gets hurt, you literally don't have to change any rankings because Tyree Jackson can still give you the rushing upside.
He can, and he's got at least a big enough arm as Steve Smith.
His arm is fucking huge.
Right.
A lot of velocity on that bad boy.
Such a long delivery and so mechanically bad. David Sills, Nick Easley also landed Buffalo. David Sills is interesting to me. We'll see what happens with him, but he's a bigger slot receiver than Cole Beasley. We've seen Cole Beasley produce and not produce over the years, but you got Zay Jones there also, Robert Foster. But the thing is that nobody really has a stranglehold on any job in Buffalo.
John Brown. Besides John Brown.
Besides John Brown, who we also know has some problems staying healthy.
Yes.
I mean, he was healthy in Baltimore, but we'll see how
for one season
how he does in Buffalo for one season. So we'll have to see how all that plays out. Sills being is a guy we were high on, but being a UDFA, that kind of hurts a little bit. It's not my favorite landing spot, but if he can win something, I mean, that is a spot where there's a lot of talent. It's kind of like the Packers. There's a lot of talent, but nobody really has a stranglehold on anything other than the, John Brown in Buffalo and Devontae Adams in Green Bay.
And there's not an Aaron Rodgers there, so there's not a lot of potential upside in terms of production. You just hope.
Josh Allen has all the upside.
Okay.
I'm not even going to talk. Do you want to talk about Nick Easley? Because I didn't write that down, I don't think.
No, I put it down for whatever reason, so we can move on from him.
Elijah Holyfield lands in Carolina.
God, a potential day 2 pick goes undrafted because of a fucking horrendous combine.
Terrible combine.
Oofda.
I like, was it Jordan Scarlett more than I like Holyfield, honestly.
I mean, Holyfield would be the least athletic version of CJ Anderson, if that's saying a lot.
Yep. Preston Williams lands in Miami as a wide receiver. He's a guy that his tape wasn't necessarily blow me away good, but he does land in a spot where there's a path.
Yeah.
Yeah, however good that may be, which I don't think it is.
There's still 3, 4, 5 receivers ahead of him.
Yep. Damaray Crockett, Karan Higdon land in Houston. I don't care.
Yep, don't care either.
Stanley Morgan Jr. landing in Cincinnati could be the wide receiver 3 still. Doesn't temper my love for him at all. Just means I'm going to get him at a better price. I'm still drafting him. He's going to sit behind AJ Green and Tyler Boyd, and I fully have faith in his ability to be a better wide receiver than John Ross.
I think they'll still try to trade John Ross. What we did talk about, at least through text after this had broken out, is that the 3 receivers ahead of him, though, right now, I think, in my opinion, all can't stay healthy. So his potential path to targets in year 1 may not seem so bleak. He's definitely a draft and stash and rookie drafts, though.
Yep. Emmanuel Hall lands in Chicago, which is funny because he's no different than, I don't know, Taylor Gabriel or Cordero Patterson, or they're just going to pick the speed guys they like the most. I like Hall, but he likely won't be on the roster. I think he'll end up somewhere else. I don't think he will be either. Kyle Shermer lands in Kansas City. I don't really care about that.
Nope.
The part about Kansas City I do care about, and this is my favorite UDFA, I think, outside of Stanley Morgan, James Williams lands in Kansas City.
This is so interesting because they bring in Carlos Hyde. No one feels this is a threat to Damian Williams because Damian Williams should be the pass catcher still. Now you bring in a running back who caught 150-something balls in 2 seasons. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be scared if I'm a Damian Williams owner. Not yet because of no draft capital there, but we love James Williams here.
Yeah, I don't buy into Damian Williams, and they also keep with the mold. Darrell Williams, Damian Williams, James Williams.
Except it's a J Williams, not a D Williams.
Still Williams.
Yes, I know.
So I like James Williams a lot. He was shifty. He's a great pass catcher. I'm not big on Damian Williams at all. So I think he has a shot to make the team and produce.
I think he'll be someone that we talk about if Damian Williams gets hurt.
Yep. Moving on to
Jacoby Myers
landing in New England. New England knows how to use slot receivers, but with Edelman still there, I mean, Myers is a guy I liked a decent amount as a slot receiver, but him being undrafted, and then, which we know New England will also try to use from time to time, but you couple that with the fact that there's still a Julian Edelman, there's no path right now.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Jacoby Myers, so I don't care.
Yep. Couple quarterback landing spots. Brett Rippon in Denver is not going to make the team, I don't think.
Nope.
Jake Browning in Minnesota could compete for the backup spot, but it's an uphill battle.
I don't remember who their backup is. I know it's not Trevor Simeon anymore. It's somebody else they brought. Sean Mannion. So maybe
it's Mannion, so he'll compete at least.
Yeah.
Devin Ozigbo in New Orleans, don't care. Lil Jordan Humphrey lands in New Orleans.
I didn't see this. I'm so excited now.
I love this because Lil Jordan, who was the giant slot receiver they had there for a long freaking time?
Marquise Colston.
No, not Colston, the one that never produced but gave you touchdowns weirdly.
Well, it was Colston before he retired. And then it was
that's the other guy.
Six guy that had 1 or 2 good games.
I'm gonna have to look this up now.
Never materialized. It starts with an M, I think.
New Orleans Saints roster.
Either way, he
Keep talking while I look this up.
his path to targets is pretty bleak, though. There's still a lot of receivers there. Speaking of guys like Traquan Smith, who I'm still a big fan of. Obviously, this is Michael Thomas's receiving core. Austin Carr is still there that they've flashed a little bit in. But if Humphrey can make the team, he does fit the skill set that Drew Brees seemed to like in his bigger slot receivers.
Brandon Coleman.
There it is, Brandon Coleman. So this is a guy that could, if some injuries occur, could see some upside of the way of maybe Trey Quinn, if he can latch on to New Orleans.
Yeah, it was Brandon Coleman, but I see worst case scenario of that. Best case scenario, though, we know that this is a position where they don't care. They will use giant slot receivers, as we just talked about. So I do like that landing spot. I wrote down David Sills again just because I like him. DeMarcus Lodge in Tampa Bay, I think we can agree he's firmly blocked.
He didn't like his tape, but he may not make the team.
Yeah, he's firmly blocked. Jess Ferguson in Seattle, bigger wide receiver whose best trait was that he was a big wide receiver that went to a small school. I don't think he makes the team. Trayvon McMillian was terrible. Alex Barnes lands in Tennessee. He could latch on as a running back 3. He's very Derrick Henry-like, I guess.
How did he not get drafted is what surprised me, because he was the only one of the few shining spots in the combine.
I don't know. I don't.
A full class that didn't perform really well, and I mean, he was top 6 for us just because of that, and for him to go undrafted left me pretty shocked.
Yeah, I think he latches on. Nick Fitzgerald, I don't know that he makes the team out in Tampa.
Yeah, he's garbage.
Yep. All right, that was a bit of a longer episode. We apologize, but we like to make sure we're thorough and can break down the draft. So that is it for that. Next week's episode.
We have some Ashton Dulin goes to the Colts.
Ashton Dulin to the Colts?
Yep, love that.
Oh, I wish we had Miguel on to ask him who he's betting on out of Krishan Hogan and Ashton Dulin to actually.
It's probably Dulin, but I would bet that. But I love this signing for him if he can make the team.
Yeah, I do too if he can make the team, and I think he'll compete to make the team. Problem is, I like Paris Campbell also, so you're going to have to try to find a path to targets for Ashton Dulin. May not happen year 1 or year 2.
Yes.
UDFA doesn't necessarily bode fantastically for him, but if he can latch on, find a way to make the field, he could be a late-round dart throw up to see how the rest of everything shakes out. Anything else before I go ahead and wrap it up?
That looks to be it. I wanted to get some of that. I wanted to at least talk about Dulin for a second.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't seen that one yet. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Again, a little bit longer episode. We went about an hour 47 here, which about double what we normally do or try to do. 45 minutes, whatever. Anyway, want to make sure we're thorough. A lot of players to break down for the draft. Next week's episode still a little bit up in the air. We're going to talk dynasty impacts, but we kind of already did that anyway. Could talk positional battles. I don't know yet. I'll figure it out in the next day or two. And it'll be a surprise. So,
yay, surprises.
Yeah, for surprises. Dan, I might even send you a script. We'll see.
Maybe.
Thank you guys all for tuning in. Dan, tell them where they can find you one more time.
At 30 BFF with 2 Fs.
All right, I am at Hot BFF with 2 Ps. Show us at Beerfield FF, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped, Beerfield Fantasy Football, everywhere else. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We will catch you next time on Beerfield Fantasy Football.
See ya.